You ready, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. We'll go ahead and call this working session of the East Peoria City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Mingus,
Here.
Sutherland,
Here.
Mayor Call.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Today's working session, of course, no formal action will be taken by the council, is on electrical aggregation program. And with that time, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can introduce our guests.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to start out with, we thought we wanted to bring in our electrical aggregation broker. This is he is new from the one that we utilized in the past. This program has been in place since 2013, and we used the same broker up until last summer. And so we decided to switch gears, and thankfully, at least with our first round, our new broker was able to get a better price, a more favorable price than our old broker. The challenge is we had to lock in because of previous contracts, and Ameren announced their rate after that, and it was better yet. So some of the things that Chris has done with our aggregation program is to try to put us in a position to next round get a more favorable pricing. He's also been working with us on the city's electrical services, so this would be internal for city facilities. And so tonight, we'd like them to talk about the electrical aggregation program, as well as get into an opportunity for the city to save some money on its electrical services. So to start with, I'd like to introduce Chris Landstrom, who's with Twin City Energy Services, and then he has his team with him. I'll let them introduce themselves, but Chris, go ahead.
So I'm Chris Landstrom with Twin City Energy Services. I'm the President CEO of Twin City. Sitting to my right here is Nathan Hendricks from Genesis Group Consulting. And here on my other right side is Dave White from Common Energy, which will be talking tonight about the main municipal accounts for community solar. So with that, I'm going to start talking about the municipal aggregation program. So we started with the city of East Peoria with your December 25 meter reads. We locked in a rate through May of 26 at 0.09248, which was, I believe, a 5-6 months contract. When we did this, we did not know what the rate would be totally yet with Ameren, since the capacity auction comes out in the late April, beginning of May season, and then Ameren takes their time before a June 1 start to announce what the bundled rates are going to be for a non-summer and a summer at that point in time. So in comparison, starting in June of 25, Ameren's bundled rate started at 0.08807. In October, once we got out of the summer season, it dropped to 0.08410. And in January, it has upticked to 0.08769 per kilowatt hour. This is for DS1 residential customers only. So in comparison, since the municipal aggregation not only does it serve the residential side, it does small commercial up to 15,000 kilowatt hours annually. The small commercial started in June of 25 on a bundled rate of 0.09506. In October of 25, on the non-summer period, it went down to 0.0942. And in January 26, it is up now on a bundled rate of 0.09771. So yes, we are doing very well on the small commercial side. It's a little bit more than the Ameren bundled rate, but here's the problem with Ameren bundled rates. One, they don't publicize it until mid to late May for a June start, so nobody knows what it's going to be. Another thing that we've contended with over the last few years is a lot of market volatility with more AI centers and data centers coming online, more demand. With the prior administration, there was less natural gas for peaker plants to produce electricity. And then with Illinois and many other locations closing so many coal plants, it dropped the reliability power off the grid, in which coal was by far the cheapest way to produce electricity. So And then now this last summer, capacity jumped behind MISO, which Ameren's part of the MISO grid. It jumped to $666.50 a megawatt hour for the first 3 months, and then starting in September, it went under $100. Most residents, we're seeing at least, like I say, 12 to 14 cents a kilowatt hour around that time frame. Before that, I should say, the year prior. It has dropped down. We took a proactive thing moving into this that we don't know what Ameren is going to be since it's so volatile every year. We did not want to go long term. Many communities that stayed with the Peoria aggregation program, they actually locked in at 0.0949. Again, we locked in at 0.09248 through May of 26. They recommended to many villages to lock in for an additional 13 months starting in May of 26 for 13 months at 13.2 cents per kilowatt hour. I feel that it's going to be a very, very high rate for residents and small commercials. I think that municipal aggregation program for everybody that's a part of the Peoria one is going to be underwater. And I did not want to recommend that to the city of East Peoria or anybody that we work with. So that's why we did not do anything beyond May of 26 at that point in time. As I said, the contract comes up in May of 26. We will need to make a decision sometime in March for a May of 26 start. It's not anything that we had to immediately do in January or even into February. We are going to be giving information to Ty here in the next week or two of kind of where markets are at. Based on the market volatility now, we are going to look at more of a summer and a non-summer rate instead of a blended rate, because what we're seeing is the higher rate is going to be in the summer, and then Ameren especially drops beyond that in the non-summer time frame. So that's why we're now going to be looking more of a non-summer rate and then a summer rate and a non-summer rate. One thing that we're contending with that Ty has asked me questions about when customers call in, how about an opt-out or whatever, one thing we're going to try to figure out how to do better is to try to get in front of some citizens. If a customer opts out of a municipal aggregation program, per the tariffs of Ameren, they have 60 days to pick a supplier. If they don't pick a supplier within 60 days, they are stuck with you for 4 months, which a lot of customers probably were not going to be very happy coming this summer if Ameren raises their rates, and then they don't have any options to do but to stay with Ameren. So that is something that we need to address better moving forward.
Do you have a second for just a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Because one of the issues, or one of the questions, as you said, a couple different things. One, when they're being asked late in the year to opt in, to opt out, and I know because being exposed to auction is April, May. You just mentioned the contract, which we're going to have to opt in, opt out. Again, the constant churn, as it appears, of opting in and opting out. Opting out aggravates some people, and I know why it is that way. But in the factors that you listed are affecting Ameren too. I mean, what you stated is you don't know what Ameren is, but Ameren keeps coming under us, keep coming under the aggregation in the last couple of years. Again, we can go back and we've saved millions for the citizens of East Peoria with the aggregation program, but the last couple of years with the volatilities, those aren't going to change. The data centers that are coming online and artificial intelligence have all been reported that they're going to put a drain on our power systems. But to me, there's been a lot of this churn about the constant dates. Just like I said, November, they have to opt in and opt out by December, and that's only good. You said 6 months through May. That's my numbers only count 5 months in that
Well, that's our current contract. is
Yeah,
what
the
he's
current contract
referring
went
to.
from December of 25 meter read through May of 26 meter read.
That's the one
That's
we,
5 months.
right,
Yes.
that's the one we approved.
Right.
Are you asking him to clarify so people understand? I mean, this is directed, like, we don't have a choice. It was a referendum, the citizens wanted to do the aggregation thing, so we moved forward, and they have to opt out, but that's driven by the state law, is it not?
Well, the
Correct.
That's
State,
required.
yeah, state law, the way the municipal aggregations work is you have to opt out. The only way you opt in is, we had a resident say that, hey, I was with a retail energy supplier, I want to opt into the program. That's the way you only opt in. But all municipal aggregation programs in the state of Illinois are opt out.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's, I had written a bunch of common questions, and you answered one already. But that is it, just like tonight. One of the things that they find confusing is that I've got a letter here that came from, who did it come from, at the end of the year. It actually came from Ameren, telling me who my new electric supplier is, Constellation Energy. When we look at here in this room, we got Twin City Energy, Genesis Group, and Common Energy. None of them are so.
They're the broker, that's why.
I understand that, but I'm trying to,
Yeah.
get, that's some of the details that our residents are asking or confused by, because they see all these names, they see, and we had with Home Energy, and we had, the supplier was somebody, the last one was a nuclear power plant out of Ohio. But I was just trying to communicate, that's the elements of the confusion that we're having with all the names, all the players.
Yeah, there was a letter that went out from Ameren earlier in the year, so this would be in the fall. And there was a number that had been disconnected from Constellation, but it was a number referencing them. So the letters do create some amount of confusion. They're not, that's, if I had more calls, it was either that or, hey, I opted out before on this, why can't I be permanently opted out? And that was a question I had posed to Chris too, and that's kind of that same issue, is that unless they have this, this situation where they've gone for 10 months and are not able to switch, that opt-out is always going to be out there. Every time we do a change, that opt-out is going to be a requirement.
So it's what I heard Chris saying, is on the public education component, trying to figure out a better way to reach out to the public to get them to better understand.
Will we have to do that if you go to the summer and non-summer? Each one of those changes would be an opt-in, opt-out situation again?
I don't believe so. That is something I'm going to have to look into, because from my understanding with the Peoria one, that when they did the 5 months through May of 26 and then the 13 months beyond that, it was all opt-in or opt-out. But that is something I can address with Constellation. Just for everybody's clarification, there are only 2 retail energy suppliers that actually do municipal aggregations behind Ameren. Homefield Energy and Constellation are the only 2 suppliers that will do municipal aggregations behind Ameren now.
So that's why we're Constellation, that's why you see that name.
Yeah, 'cause some of the questions again, and I'll let you get back to your presentation.
Why is that they're the only two?
They're the only 2 suppliers that are willing to go through all the legal and hassle of trying to go through all the thousands and thousands of accounts and to service them properly.
Sounds concerning.
Yeah,
Well,
There's a lot of risk when it comes to, I'm Nathan Hendricks with Genesis Group Consulting, so I'm just the consultant side, right? My job is to get you in front of the proper broker that has, ethics. And then obviously, we've got Dave over here that does with Common Energy, but at the end of the day, these suppliers, both of them, Constellation and Homefield, they don't just sell you energy, they also produce energy, right? They're generators. So sometimes because they have assets within our zone, so the MISO zone in which we sit in, they can take a little bit more risk than maybe suppliers that would like to bid, but they won't because there's more risk involved for them to determine that load factor of the amount of energy that's needed, and then go, okay, what's the risk if we do this kind of deal? So that's why those 2 suppliers are usually the only 2 that we're seeing currently, is because they're also generators within the MISO territory. So they can take on the risk of this amount of load. Then if so many drop out, they can even though they may have bought that load, they can withstand that risk, that risk tolerance, right? So that's sometimes what we see is it just depends on where the particular location is for this, the volume of load that they're taking in, and certain suppliers will only bid on that.
I think my concern was with if it's harder and harder to get others that would enter into it, then before long, if Ameren is the only game in town, they're still bound, though, certain parameters that they can set prices at, correct?
So Ameren's Ameren's your utility, right? So
Sure.
all they do, they're like the Amazon, right? They deliver the power to you. They don't necessarily supply the power for you. That's where the suppliers come in. So Ameren's purchasing energy no differently than anybody else is purchasing it for you. But because they're the default supply or utility, they naturally have to deliver and supply you energy because they are the utility. But this is where options come in for our residents or our small business owner or large business owners. You have options in Illinois because it's a deregulated state. You can go outside of Ameren and say, okay, well, I'm going to purchase my energy elsewhere and get it for a little bit cheaper rate because we are deregulated. So in the case of Ameren, Ameren's restricted on how they have to purchase energy too. They have restrictions where we don't necessarily have the same restrictions as the utility. We can go out in the open market daily and purchase it. Ameren can't do that. Ameren can't go out daily. So sometimes, you know, buying from a supplier directly is going to be cheaper through a broker than it will be, you know, allowing yourself to run on, you know, the default utility, in this case Ameren, right? Or if you're up north, ComEd. So I guess to some question, Ameren's a little bit different just because they're the utility and they have to purchase energy a little bit differently than we have to purchase energy.
Well, that's a common question that I receive is, and some people don't, when they think they're buying from Ameren, they don't realize that they're not really buying from Ameren, they're the distribution channel. But they gotta go out to the same market that us and our brokers go to, so how are they getting a lower price on the market, the same market that our brokers go out to? That's a common question, because again,
It's timing, right? I mean, I think that's a lot of any of this is all timing to some degree. You know, there's different municipalities I've served in the past that have been extremely successful at landing at the right time of the year. Ideally, you know, because the problem in our energy industry right now is when we reset the roadmap every June, when the energy market resets itself in our territory, we're up against capacity issues, right? So summertime just seems to be, what we're learning is the high market volatility time. So like Chris said, I think we need to reset the wheel on how we're managing this. There may not be a multi-year aggregation rate anymore for citizens. It may be a two-tier, one-year contract because the capacity market's all over the place. And we don't think moving 3 years out and buying, you know, having a price that's at 3-year mark is, you know, like Peoria's done, for example, is a safe bet for your citizens. They're going to end up spending way more than if we just did it year by year. Yes, it's a problem because people are seeing these letters come in and more often, but at the end of the day, we're trying to save them as much as we possibly can on their energy supply. And the only way to do that is to be with the market, not against the market. So we're trying to stay with the market. When it resets, we're going to reset for you and the citizens.
And that's the big thing. That's the reason why we went with these gentlemen and did the 6-month or not quite 6-month deal. And I trust their judgment. I look back at the last 3-year contract we had, we got burned on. And so that's where that comes into play, exactly what he just explained. I know it's a pain in the butt for citizens every 6 months if that's the route we go, but our whole goal is to try to save as much money on energy costs on behalf of the citizens that we can, and I think we have an obligation to do so. And, you know, I made it clear after this last 3-year deal that we weren't going to listen to anyone that came in at the last hour saying the sky's falling, you got to sign on the dotted line for 3 more years. We're not doing that again. We got burned. And so that's why we've gone in a different direction, and we've gone with these folks here. And I think, to your point, Chris, I think the public education side, and that's something as the city, you know, we have a new individual that fills that public relations role, and I'd like to get you involved with her too and figure out a way. We control all of our social media and everything else. We have ways that we can put this information out as well and do a better job at. So I think that's something that we need to partner and work together on to better help our residents understand. Because it's complicated. This is what you guys do for a living, so you can sit here and explain it to us. I understand because I've sat through a couple of your presentations before, but the average citizen, had I not been in this role, I probably would be just as confused as they are. So.
And
we're not that, if we can't feel that it's going to be a good thing for a city or a residents or small businesses to sell a deal, there's a chance come March, depending upon where rates are at, we might say, we need to let everybody go back to the utility for 1 to 2 months at most, and then revisit it as that time progresses. But we would have 60 days until sometime in March to pick people up in July for a July meter read, if we don't feel that it's wise to lock in something at a rate where we think it could be really bad to the city and or the residents and small businesses.
It's part of the reason that Ameren, to the Commissioner's point, that they are able to provide less is that they are the vehicle that takes the energy there. So do the others have to take that into account? So does Ameren have, or am I just not seeing this correctly?
Well, for many, many years, we just obliterated the utility, in previous years. We would do a lot better than what the city or the Ameren rates would be. And then, we used to be all in at like 4.5 cents for tons of years. Then the markets moved up and, we had Village of Germantown Hills. We locked it around at
5.49 cents while everybody else was at 13.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when everybody signed that 12.12937 for 3 years, we're like, don't do it. We didn't lock any of ours in until the markets calmed down after 22. And we did a whole lot better than what everybody else was at. Again, it's doing what's right for the customer and not for our pocketbook.
Yeah.
So I won't sell something if it's not right to the residents and to the city and to small businesses.
All right, feel free to.
Yep. So I'm going to introduce Dave White with Comment Energy, and he's going to talk about community solar options to save money for your main accounts here.
Fantastic. You all hear me?
Nope, yeah, there you go.
How about now? Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
you may
great.
want to move that a little bit closer to
Yeah.
you. There you go.
That'll probably be better. So first of all, thank you very much for letting me be here tonight. Really excited about the opportunity to work with you. The first thing I want to do is talk about community solar. Some, Mr. Mayor, some of you council members may know, commissioners rather, may know what it is. Let's start off with what it isn't. Community solar that I'm talking about today, I'm not talking about selling you anything. I'm not talking about selling you panels, arrays, sub-metering, none of that. So when people hear solar, they immediately think of rooftop arrays or large arrays. There's nothing to buy or purchase in this program. Second of all, there's absolutely no cost to you to participate. So you don't have to build anything, there's no sign-up fees. Thirdly, you get money back. And the way you get the money back could not be more transparent. It's on your Ameren bill. And as I go through the presentation, you'll see that. You'll see a redacted invoice that we have. So right about now is when people say, well, that's too good to be true because there's nothing free in this world. And that's accurate to a point, but I always like to start off with what community solar is not and then what it is. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but go ahead to the next slide, please. The reality is, after reviewing your data, and this is over, there's an annual savings and a 20-year savings, because every solar project is 20 years, but before anybody gets nervous, there's a 12-month termination clause. So always consider this as a 12-month contract with a 19-month or 19-year extension. So after we analyzed all of your accounts, the savings over 20 years is $870,000. Now on top of the savings, and as I already mentioned, there's nothing that has to change. The billing doesn't change. Nothing changes except on your invoice. You'll see a credit. The other thing that you're doing is you are participating in the additionality of renewable clean energy. What that means is, by you participating in community solar, and this happens to happen within the Ameren territory, these projects cannot be built in Texas, they cannot be built in California or anywhere. They have to be built in your territory. So your participation allows for new renewable energy sources to be built. And again, what usually comes with that is a cost, but in this case, there's no cost to do it. Does that make sense so far? I want to make sure I stop for any questions. We okay so far? Excellent. Go ahead. So this is where we get into how did we come to these calculations. And after reviewing the 88 meters and we looked at the overall usage, you then see which is your usage, but the most important number is your clean energy allocation. Because the way that we can allocate your meters and your usage to community solar projects, it's not dollar for dollar, meaning we can't use all 14 million kilowatt hours because the savings comes on your Ameren invoice. So on every energy bill, you have a supply and a delivery piece. The savings is on the delivery piece only. So in your Ameren bill, there's two sections. Chris does a great job with handling your supply. This savings is derived from your delivery. But once again, we're not selling you anything. This is just direct savings to you. So within that, there's a credit rate. And what that rate is, because this program is a state acknowledged and it's a regulated program through the utility. If you go to the Ameren website, you will see community solar. The Energy Shines Illinois program is a state program. This is not deregulated. This is regulated by the state and the utility. So all the information I'm going to talk about today, you can see on that website. That rate is the rate to compare. And as you've all just been talking about, energy rates are going up. So community solar is a great way to mitigate some of those increases for the city. And this is truly a savings opportunity with literally no downside. So again, that's where we came to the $36,050. This is an estimate, but it's a very good estimate because the data that we got really allowed us to, the analytics team, to drill down to it. So an annual savings of $36,000, the 20-year savings of over $875,000, and then on top of that, the carbon impact, meaning the carbon that you're reducing, is very sizable, 116 million. So you're not only doing the right thing from a sustainability standpoint, which is obviously going to be important to a lot of people in some respect, and you're able to do it without spending money. And there's no other way to do that right now in the energy market. When you buy renewable power, it's more expensive. Now, in this case, you're not buying the power, but you are responsible for new assets that are built that go directly onto the grid. And I'm going to get into that if you go to the next slide. So this is an Ameren invoice. The only thing that is going to be different on your Ameren invoices for your accounts is you will see off-site generation credit. And it's the only time you're going to see on your invoice a minus. And that comes from your participation in community solar. So I want to stop there for a minute and explain how this happens. Because so far we've talked about there's no solar panels, there's no arrays, there's no sub-metering, there's no sign-up fee. So where does this energy come from? So community solar projects are developed by developers in the state of Illinois. Illinois has got the most community solar out of any state. Why? The tax incentives were very great up until recently for these developers. So the developers build solar arrays, generally between 3 to 5 megawatt in size. Every bit of power that flows from those arrays goes directly onto the Ameren grid. It doesn't go anywhere else. So this power is generated. Ameren utility gets the power for free and the RECs, or the renewable energy credits, for free. So in turn, what do they do with that power? That power goes right to the grid, goes to customers, everyone's happy. But the developer who paid for the project, well, how do they get paid? Because they built the project. The way they get paid is very simple. In order for this to work, subscribers, such as yourselves, subscribe to the project. You are allocated an amount of energy, again, not purchased, you are simply allocated clean energy that you receive a credit for. And the credit comes to you as a whole. So you get 100% of the credit. In return, you send 90% back to Common Energy, and I pay the developer. So in simplest terms, if I sent you $100 and you sent me $10 back, that is how this would work for the next 20 years or until you don't want to save money anymore. And if you think of that flow of money, So the developer invests in the project, they build it. It goes onto the grid. Ameren gets every bit of energy and the RECs for free. But they need to provide a credit back to the customers who support it. And being a subscriber is how you support it. So once you receive the credit, you'll get one invoice from me that will show all the meters and what the percentage that you owe back to the developer, because I'm not paid by your credits. I always get into how Common Energy is paid, because if I'm on that side, I want to know how am I paid. We're paid a management fee. Another analogy that's very useful is if you built a high-rise condo and it had 100 units, the builder builds it, they hire me to fill it with tenants. But they built it, they are the ones who own it. So my job is only to find tenants for that building, or in this case, subscribers for their community solar project. So all the credits and the flow of money that we're talking about, I don't keep any of it. They've already paid me to manage their project or their high-rise, whichever way you want to look at it. So in this case, the most important part to me is where do you see your credit? It's right on your bill. It is truly right on your Ameren invoice. So you'll see it every month. You'll be able to take that against the allocation and make sure the numbers are right. And you won't get an invoice from me until you've received the credit. And I want to say that again. You will never get an invoice from me until the credit has already posted on your Ameren bills. In this case, the 88 accounts that we talked about. So that is the flow of money, and this is where the credit appears. So I want to stop there because I want to make sure that nobody has any questions or concerns there.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
The 88 counts, are you referring to city-specific accounts?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
City meters.
Yes, some of the accounts were disqualified because to qualify, and again, because this is a state program, not everything qualifies. So that is accurate. The 88 accounts were the ones that were eligible. So let me correct that. Those were the accounts that were eligible. Yes, sir.
Go back to your invoice. So you said you would invoice. What's on that invoice then?
So the invoice that Common Energy would send to you would be what is due. So in this case, you receive the entire credit from Ameren. So the city gets the entire credit, but 90% of that credit is due back to the developer who built the array. So we would invoice you for the 90%. So for easy math, if the credit was $100, we would invoice you for 90, and you simply keep the 10% savings. The easiest way to think of this is on your Ameren invoice, it's a 10% savings in perpetuity. And the way that works is you get the entire credit, we invoice you, but not until you receive the credit on your bill.
So it goes down to, we're getting 10%, you're getting 90.
I'm not getting any.
Well,
The developer's
okay.
getting 90.
Correct.
Yes, correct, sir.
So it's essentially just a financing mechanism.
That is
For
100%
vehicle.
what it is. I am not selling you energy. I am not selling you electrons. I am not selling you RECs. This is simply a crediting mechanism, again, that is regulated by the state and the utility.
Does this program have an end date?
All
just
solar
said it's
projects have a 20-year term. However,
You
if
go by 12 months.
we go by,
at a
we have a
time.
12-month termination clause. So if after a year, you no longer want to participate or save money, you tell me, and then in 12 months, it's over. If you continue to want to save money, it just works in perpetuity.
Extends up
numbers?
to 20 years.
Excuse me, sir?
Same numbers?
The only time the numbers would change is when the estimated credit rate, which is the rate to compare, because that's how they determine, because the energy ebbs and flows in price. So if that number changes drastically, they change it, but otherwise, no. And
The
because power
percentage wouldn't change.
no,
Maybe
the percentage never changes.
The amount would.
Sorry, if that
Yeah.
was no, the percentage never changes, but what I can tell you, with power prices going the way they are, your savings is only going to go up because the price of power is going up. But the percentage never changed, no, sir.
But it would never flip in such a way that you'd end up owing money.
No,
Okay.
no. And the reason for that is after we begin working with a new customer, the biggest part of the process is the service after the sale, meaning every month your invoices, many of them will flow through the utility, but we will get them, and we go through every invoice every month to make sure that you're allocated the appropriate amount of credits every month. So we're saving you as much money as you can, but you never get upside down. So there's never a time where you owe more than that 90%. No, that's what we do. Common has been doing this for 10 years. We work with Microsoft, Starbucks, Marathon Petroleum. So my agreements and my processes have gone through enough attorneys who were paid to say no, but all said yes, because it works. And it is truly one of those things where, because we're not selling you anything, it's just a crediting mechanism, it's a great opportunity.
I have a dumb question. Does the city sign up for this? Not the residential program, but do we sign up for this, and does the city make money off this same program in a different fashion or form?
This would be the city. This whole program is the city.
Do we make money, though?
Well, that's what he's saying.
We would save 10%.
You save 10%.
Not the homeowner, the city?
No, this is for the
Strictly
city.
city accounts.
Okay.
Yes, this is strictly the city accounts. And so, yes, the savings comes directly to the city. That $36,000 every year is savings that, and the beautiful way is where it comes. It comes right on your own invoices, so you can see it every month. And you know it's working. And I'll get into, we have a portal to show you all that, but this is the nuts and bolts of what community solar is, and more importantly, what it's not. It's not a raise, it's not meters, it's not fees. It's a way to save 10%.
Somewhere there's a raise, right?
I can, and again, I made a joke about it earlier, but I'm very serious. The customers that we work with have gone through it with how many lawyers do you think that Marathon Petroleum has and these companies have? They have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I will always say this to that question. There's no gotcha, but always think of it as you only have a 12-month contract with me. If you don't like it after a year, and Chris is familiar with our agreement too, there is, and you'll see it obviously before you do anything further if you wish. I certainly hope you will. It's very customer friendly. So everything is outlined very clearly. But this is a credit mechanism that works, and I'll be the first one to tell you why it works. It works because in the state of Illinois, they were very incentivized to build these solar arrays. I've lived in Illinois my whole life. I know how much sun we get in the state of Illinois, okay? We are not California, we are not New Mexico, we are not Texas, but the incentives were so good for the investors to build the arrays. They were doing them at such a cost-effective rate. That's why we have more of it than any other state, not because we have the most sun. So they knew they were going to make money no matter what.
Okay, I want to piggyback on my first dumb question with another dumb question. We don't get this benefit from Ameren, we just get it from you because the city has chosen you to be our supplier. So we're not getting any money, the 10% back from Ameren. So if the residents pick Ameren, the city receives no funds. Am I correct?
That's not a dumb question. That's a great question. I just want to make a few slight corrections in that. I am not your supplier. We are a community solar company. Your supplier is worked through Chris, and you guys had a conversation about your supplier. So I just want to make that distinction. And the savings is only derived off of the city meters. Right. So it always goes back to the city. The residents do not participate in this program. This is strictly for the city of East Peoria's
These are just
meters.
our accounts, the city accounts.
Dave,
No
can
matter
you
what
also?
our citizens do, it doesn't impact this.
Does not impact.
Can you address to let them know that this is only on the delivery side and not the commodity side? and why?
100%. Great. When I referenced it earlier, but I'll certainly come back to it, is that the savings is only derived off of the delivery portion of your invoice. Yeah. So it's not off the supply and the delivery, it's only the delivery portion, or the Ameren portion for delivery on your bill.
Correct.
So that's why we'd all love the savings to be more, but I mean, $36,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at, in my opinion. And so again, the benefit comes though from the delivery portion. So that's what you focus on. And ultimately, when you're looking at this opportunity, the best way that I can have you look at it is Common Energy is not selling you anything. There's nothing, we're not contractually bound. Your contract with Common Energy is simply because the developers need to have tenants on their project, because if they don't have tenants on their project, they don't make any money. So they have a termination clause, because if you decide that you want to leave, I have another customer who I will then add to that project, because every community solar project that's not fully subscribed, that developer is not making money. So that's the only reason there's a termination clause to begin with. Because it's almost, again, I go back to my condominium analogy or high rise. If you're leasing an apartment, you can't just leave in one day and say, I'm leaving without penalty. But if you say, hey, I'm going to move out, give us that notice. In this case, it's 12 months. You leave with no harm, no foul.
So what community solar project would, I mean, is there one set community solar project that you work with, or that this energy savings would be coming from?
Excellent question. Excellent question. And one of the things that differentiates myself from my competitors is that we are analogous to the developers. The list could go on and on of folks that develop these solar projects. Now, but the good ones, the list stops pretty quick. So we have, over the last 10 years, partnered with the 10 best developers. But again, I don't own the projects. But these are the developers that consistently come with projects that go online, that PTO, or permit to operate, which means Ameren has given them the green light. So they're producing credits, and those are the people that I subscribe my customers to. So what you would know is you'd know what projects you're on, because that's a whole part of the second part of this. We're talking about the savings, but now let's talk about the benefit to the city, because the city, without spending any extra money, in fact saving money, is supporting renewable energy. And I know there's different views on that, but in the end, Illinois is going to need more generation than we have. You mentioned data centers earlier, and you're 100% right. We're going to need more generation. So the fact that it comes from solar, great. It's still new generation. This just happens to be renewable, and everybody's got sustainability goals. So while you don't get the RECs to retire to use toward your own sustainability goals, it's a great message to let the city know we're participating in community solar on these 3 projects, which are going to be in the area, and that our involvement allowed those to be built and to put new renewable energy on the grid today. So there's a great message there as well.
I think the reason why I was asking, in full disclosure, there's one in particular that we kind of went around with, and personally I thought the company was the most unprofessional company I've ever experienced, and I'm hoping they're
Yes,
not on
sir.
that list. That's why I was asking
Yes,
the
sir.
question, because that will weigh heavily on any decision we make.
Yes, sir. I spoke briefly with Chris, and
Okay.
I had never heard of that organization. And again, we work with the top 10 developers that we pick and choose our relationships with, because we only partner with those folks that do what they say and say what they do. So if I can put your mind at ease, I'd never heard of that group. That doesn't mean anything on its own, but anybody who we would subscribe you to, you would know about it, because you have to sign a disclosure form telling you that you're being assigned to this project. So I can't just willy-nilly say, great, I'm going to take your load and place it where I want. Absolutely not. You will know every time you're assigned, because it's an easy sign form, but you have to know and you have to sign it.
Okay.
So you'll know where you're going.
Well, just so you gentlemen know, we got about 10 more minutes,
Oh,
so
okay.
I just want to be
Yep.
respectful of the time here.
No,
Yeah.
in the end, that is what we offer, and we really like the opportunity.
Well, I
to
didn't
work
mean
with
for you to stop. I meant if you had other part of your presentation, you got 10 more minutes.
you. Okay,
I just-
that's great.
yeah.
I'll take the
Okay.
10 minutes. So let's go past the bill. Again, this is just very simple math, but it shows you it's a 90%. It's 6,000. That's the credit that you would keep. You go to the next one. And the next thing is pretty straightforward. You will all talk about what we talked about today. You'll talk with Chris. I can get him a contract that you can look at and go through the T's and C's, and we can have another conversation. And then if you want to go to the portal, the Common Energy, right there. So a great way that you have complete transparency into what I'm doing, or rather what Common Energy is doing, is we give you access to a portal that in real time will show you, A, what projects you're assigned to, B, how much you've saved year to date, and what those numbers all mean. Instead of wondering, hey, I know we did that thing with Common Energy, where are we at with that? We are fully transparent. And this portal goes deeper, where it will show all 88 accounts, it'll show what's assigned, and it'll show the money that you've saved. So in essence, transparency to me is the most important thing in what I do, because it's one of those things that sounds too good to be true. So I'm going to show you every step of the way what we're doing. And again, the last thing I will leave you with, as this is regulated by the state and regulated by the utility. So it's very much managed outside of just Common Energy and what we do. So I would open it up to any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer them.
I have a question. And
Sure.
I don't know if this is a dumb question, but I'm having a hard time. Who sets the amount? And this is what I mean. You're saying that we receive, in theory, we receive 100%. We're giving back 90%. So therefore, we're receiving a 10% credit.
Correct.
So then why can't we receive 200%, give back 90%? So then our benefit equals out to 20%.
Right.
So I guess what is it that creates that?
So what creates that is, again, the rate to compare is the number. If you go back to the invoice real quick for me, Nathan. Yes. So you'll see on that invoice, or no, I'm sorry, go back to the where it shows the cost savings. You'll see there that it has a rate. It has the estimated credit rate. And that credit rate is the rate to compare. So if you were to go to the Ameren website right now and look and see what the rate to compare is, it's going to be that or very close to it. So that's where the rate is set. Now, as far as the percentages, why it can't be more, the projects set the percent that they allow, that they give, that there's a 10% savings. So it's always going to be a 10% savings. That's the maximum it's going to be.
Yeah, I understand
If I could
that.
do better, I'd happily do it, but I can't.
I understand that. I was thinking, I guess, on the front end. So there would be more money. I know what I'm trying to say in my mind, and I'm not sure how to explain it. But the initial amount that we're given, we give back 90%.
Correct.
What creates that initial amount?
What creates that initial amount is what appears on your Ameren invoice under the delivery charges. So it's the delivery, it's the tax, everything that falls in those buckets. I think there's a capacity reserve charge in there. But what causes that to go up is the price of energy going up. So it's those are the things that can change. But there's not another bucket to make it go higher. If I can,
Okay.
and again, it's a great
That makes
question,
sense, right.
because you're asking where's the pool of money and how
Yes.
can it be raised, which I would be asking too if I was sitting in your seat. And I can tell you that
Yeah, how do we get 20%? How do we get
right,
30%?
if I could do it, I happily would. But I will leave you with this: at the same time, the projects that the developers that I work with that set the savings at 10%, they do what they say they're going to do. So, for example, if I was a different person, I would sit here and say, I can get you 20%.
Yeah.
And then I would go through the process, and then I wouldn't, but then I'd have you for 12 months, and
I think I said that incorrectly. I should have said we want 10% of a larger number,
And-
which would equal then
Right.
20%.
and that number is always going to be just 10% of what's on that delivery portion of the invoice.
gotcha.
Those numbers do ebb and flow, but there's not a way for you to just bump up that, because I get it, that
The
would mean
initial investment.
a bigger pool. So at the end of the day, you're always going to save the most money that you can if you work with me, because that's what we do. Chris has a job that he focuses on your supply. My job is to look at your invoices and make sure you're getting every credit possible, which translates into dollars saved every month.
So I would, not to put you on the spot, but my ask would be, if you don't mind, not going to do it here on the spot, but provide Ty with the list of developers, as you have stated.
Absolutely.
Would be interested in looking into those.
So
Absolutely.
I will say, as to your question there really quick, so if your Ameren charges, say, is $1,000 total, you wouldn't want to receive $2,000 of credits and then pay back that much. Because
Right.
what happens then is
That's exactly what I meant.
you have too much money that you're paying out for the delivery side. If you only spent $1,000, now you got an extra $1,000 of credit, and then next thing you know, if you keep doing that, now you got $12,000 you paid more into for that one account at the end of the year when you only should have paid $12,000 less. So that's why it's limited. It's limited
yeah.
to the amount of what the actual amount of the utility charge is for that month.
Okay.
I have seen that in this industry
that
where
makes sense.
people are getting like $20,000. I've seen a customer say, I got $20,000 of credits being built up because the community solar developers over allocating us. They're not going to allow that to happen.
And you
Okay.
don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Are there-
Definitely don't want that to happen.
Are there other communities, municipalities that you're currently working with?
For me personally, I don't have another one that I'm currently working with. I'm working with a lot of school districts. I'm working with school districts in Cook County. So just off the top of my head, I can't think of one that I'm currently working with. But what I would say is the process is the same, meaning if you're a large corporate entity or you're a municipality or a township, there's not a different program for a larger size. It's literally the same program. It's just a larger number of invoices and usage. Nothing else changes.
So I'm a superintendent at a local school district, and I don't know if you emailed me or another company, but I think it was another company. There are other companies that do this then? Is that there's competition in this is what I'm assuming?
Yeah, we just signed up a grade school district on this. They had another company come in, offer 20%. I talked to, oh boy, I can't remember the gentleman's name. But ultimately, they decided to stay with me because I explained to them if they do the 20% with the other supplier, one, they don't know whenever it's going to start, and two, they're going to have hiccups if they also have the credits go onto the commodity side, because the way I've seen billing in the state so screwed up in the past 3 years if you also tie it in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right.
Any closing comments you guys would like to make?
Just thank
I'd like
you.
to thank these gentlemen with their information, and that's what we wanted to do tonight, is to get them in front of you and talk about electrical aggregation, this other opportunity, share information, not put anybody on the spot and say, look, this is what we've got to look forward to, and there's lots of potential. So I think we achieved that tonight, and look forward to having Chris and his team back on a regular basis to keep everybody up to date with what's going on. That communication piece is really key with this, because it's a complex program, and sometimes the letters don't do us any favors. So just trying to keep
Well,
everybody
thank you,
abreast.
gentlemen, for being here. And Ty, if you don't mind, let's introduce Emma to these guys so we can work on, she's the public relations. We can try to make you guys work together for educational purposes. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time and
Thank you.
all the information tonight. So, any public comment? No? Seeing none? Hearing none? Very good. I'd seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners Mingus and Decker. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. Working session's adjourned. We will start the regular meeting at 6 p.m. promptly.